Good morning students, welcome to the English class. I am Dr. Tripti Gupta from Shiv Jyoti Education Group, Kota. So today we are going to take up the revision session of chapter number 11 from your first flight book. This is the last chapter from our book and later on we will take up poems also. Okay. So let us move to chapter number 11, the proposal. So students, our chapter number 11, the proposal is written by Anton Chekhov. Now Anton Chekhov has written this play with basically this is a play with three characters here. Okay, Lyubimov is a landlord, okay, and Chubukov and Lyubimov, they both are neighbors. Okay. Now Lyubimov was like he was being eager to marry the daughter of Chubukov. Now let us move towards the look about the chapter in a gist here. Lyubimov goes to Chubukov's house to seek hand of Chubukov's daughter. So Lyubimov was dressed in a very formal manner and he goes in the evening hours to Chubukov's house, and the intention was he wanted to place a proposal, a marriage proposal for Natalia. This is she is the third character, Chubukov's daughter. Okay. Lyubimov tells Chubukov the purpose of his visit. Chubukov consents him to marry his daughter. So finally in the conversation, when he reveals Lyubimov, he comes out that he shares that he is here to propose Natalia and he wants to marry her. So Chubukov was very happy and very excited, and with all sorts of nice feeling he gives his consent also, and then later on he leaves that room and he just let Lyubimov to stay there, and he said that I will be sending Natalia for that you can have a word with her. Okay. Now with that Lyubimov starts talking to his land and Lyubimov starts talking of his land that Natalia thinks it is owned by her. Now after that he keeps on wondering, Lyubimov was very anxious, very apprehensive that how he will talk about, he was been thinking about Natalia, that she is a perfect match for him and she has a nice personality. He was thinking of himself also that this is a high time for him to get married, and with all these thoughts he was been thinking like that. He is been so nervous that he is going for an examination. Okay, in all those thought process, meanwhile Natalia comes over there and they start a conversation. But before moving towards the proposal of that marriage proposal, they fall into an argument on a piece of land, and they were being both of them were being telling about, the Lyubimov was also saying that this that piece of land is under my ownership, whereas Natalia on other hand she is countering that ownership and she was saying that it is under my ownership. Now this conversation results into a hot discussion and moves to to become an argument later on. Okay. Lyubimov explains Natalia that he owns the land. Argument continues between Lyubimov and Natalia. So in this manner finally that argument gets heated up and they both started shouting. Chubukov arrives and takes side with Natalia. Now listening to their shouts and screams, finally Chubukov comes and in the room and he finds that they both were in argument, and finally he took Natalia's side and they both started saying different, like they were being very he also falls into that same argument rather than pacifying that argument, and finally Lyubimov he leaves the place and he moves back to his house without proposing Natalia. Argument continues and Lyubimov leaves their house. So finally when Lyubimov has left their house, after that Chubukov tells the purpose behind Lyubimov's visit to Natalia. Now when Natalia was, see, Chubukov shared, they were being saying very indifferent words, very weird, in weird ways they were being abusing Lyumov, and after that somehow Chubukov just shared that to Natalia that he was here to put a marriage proposal for you. Now with that, when she comes to know about this aspect, she immediately asked Chubukov to go and invite Lyumov again. Okay. So Natalia tells Chubukov to call Lyumov. Now in this manner, finally Lyumov was being asked to come back again, so that he can propose. Now here Chubukov goes to Lyumov and Lyumov comes back and he arrives again. Okay. So Lyumov arrives and they quarrel again regarding whose pet dog is better. Now in the second visit, when he makes the second visit, he comes back and again both Natalia and Lyumov, they both again move to an argument, and now this time the argument was on that whose pet dog is a better one. Now on this small petty issue they started a second argument, and again it was an heated argument. Lyumov becomes unconscious but regains consciousness after some time. Now with that heated argument, Lyumov was very nervous and he was feeling palpitation, and after that he just gets unconscious. Both Natalia and Chubukov was thinking that, they were thinking that he has probably he has died all of a sudden, but actually he was been unconscious and he regains his consciousness after some time, and then later on, after when he comes back, he regains his complete control, and then finally Chubukov persuades Lyumov to propose Natalia. Now finding Lyumov in a right state of mind, Chubukov insists him and persuades him further that he should propose Natalia. Now after that he comes up with a formal proposal to Natalia that he wants to marry Natalia, and immediately the proposal was been accepted by Natalia when Chubukov he insists Natalia to accept the proposal. Okay. So she accepts Lyumov's proposal. Now with this, finally after this proposal was been, marriage proposal was been accepted by Natalia, and finally they agreed, and this marriage proposal was been done with them, and they again started in another argument. Now before that, Chubukov comes in between and they celebrated the evening that this is finally the marriage has been, the consent has been there for their marriage. So this is how this chapter is all about. Now let us move towards our poems from First Flight book. So students, now let us come to our first poem which we are including in this revision session, is poem number 5, the Ball poem, written by John Berryman. Now in this poem there is a small boy, and once a boy he was playing with his ball. So we find that the boy was been playing in the street up and down, and he was bouncing the ball. Okay, it was bouncing, the ball was bouncing in the street up and down, and the boy was playing with it. Okay, the boy was happily enjoying the game. He was very happy. He was possessing that ball for quite long, and he was very happy playing along with that ball. Okay, while bouncing, suddenly it fell into the water and was lost. Now all of a sudden what happened, that ball was been bouncing and it moves to it just fell down into the water, and it was lost altogether, and it was unrecoverable in the from that water. Okay. Now after that what happens is, the boy was being very sad, he was being full of grief. Okay. Now from here we can, this is the where we see that the boy is in great pain, he was in great grief, totally been engraved in the sadness of losing that ball. Okay. The poet said that there were other balls also. Okay. So he was having many balls, but then too he was being very sorrowful and in lot of grief of losing that particular ball, because he was been very much attached for he had a lot of emotional attachment to that particular ball. Okay. Now after that he also suggests that he could purchase another, since it was not great loss. So it was not a very expensive one, it was not something which he cannot purchase again, and that is why poet suggests here that that loss was not a very great loss and there was nothing to be worried, there was no need to worry. Okay. So the way he was been in grief, it was not actually required, though no, that botheration for the ball was actually not required, and the poet suggests here that another ball could be purchased. Okay. Now after that, since the boy had that ball for a long time, so he was deeply grieved due to his attachment with it. Now the poet, he comes out that how these worldly possessions, that boy was having the ball and that possession was been so near and dear to his heart, that ball was, he was very much attached to that ball, and that is why he was been feeling that pain and that deep grief in himself because of the loss of that ball. Okay. Now it was linked to his memories also. So there were lot of memories, very nice happy memories were being associated of that boy with that ball, and losing that ball he was been remembering about, he keeps on remembering about that ball, those happy time which he shared, which he played along with that ball. Okay. Now the poet thinks that it is of no use to purchase another ball, since that ball could not be replaced, because there was a lot of memories of that particular ball, so that ball could not be replaced. That is why there was no use to purchase another ball, because that ball was unreplaceable for the boy. Now after that he says that the boy should realize that he must feel his responsibility of the loss. So what he suggests that every man has to see the losses will be there in the life. So the boy must understand that there will be few losses which he will incur one or the other day in his life. So he should understand this aspect of the life. Okay, that things we acquire the things, we possess them, and then we lose them also at times. So he must feel that this is his responsibility of loss. So this is how this complete poem is all about. So finally this poem talks about that how worldly possessions are being there to be, one day they are being lost, and we should be able to come out and overcome that loss in our lives. Okay. Okay students, now let us move to our next poem, that is Amanda. Now Amanda is a wonderful poem of a small girl, a child who was being always been taken care and been nagged by, been given lots of instructions by her parents. Okay. Amanda is a poem about a small little girl written by Robin Kellen. Now let us move with how this girl is being given lot of instructions by her parents all the time. So in first stanza you can see that she is been always been nagged by her parents here. The poem Amanda is about a small child whose parents are forever nagging her about what to do and what not to do. So, she used to get lots of instructions not to chew the nails and not to hunch your shoulders, stop slouching and sit up straight. Also, all these kinds of instructions were being kept. Her parents used to keep on giving her such instructions. Okay. So, now this frequent interference makes her very unhappy. She was she was very unhappy about this state, that why she is being interfered in every aspect of her behavior, maybe in life. She is not free and she feels that she is been all the time being watched, and she does not has any freedom. Okay. Now, it seems as if she is not free to do anything that she wants to do. So, this is what her feeling was about being continuous instructions being given by her parents, the way they were being nagging her all the time. Okay. So, she was been having this intense feeling was been developed in her, that she was not at all being free and left alone to do whatever she wanted to do. So, she wants freedom from all restriction, and that was her urge and desire, which was getting stronger and stronger over the time, that she wants to get freedom out of this nagging. Now, she dreams to lead a life of a mermaid in a languid emerald sea, with her being the only inhabitant there. Now, what she has her own wonderland, and in that wonderland she used to just keep of wondering that she wants to be she wants to lead a life like a mermaid. Mermaid means fish princess. Okay. This is basically an imaginative animal. Okay, water animal. So, mermaids, you must have learned about them in some of the stories also. So, she wants to spend her life like that, that how freely she can move in a sea with emerald bed, and there she could just freely she can move anywhere, any way in that beautiful sea. She can spend her life, and that's how she wanted to. She keeps on wondering about that aspect. Okay. She feels that an orphan has more freedom than her. So, she feels like that not having parents like orphan children would be a better way of getting freedom, rather than being nagged around like her parents keep on nagging her all the time. Okay. She also wished to lead a calm and quiet life in a tower like that of Rapunzel, with nobody to disturb her. So, in her other stories, she has been looking at in those stories. She found that there was a tower, and in that the princess used to be left alone. So, she also feels that she should lead such calm and quiet life, being left all alone in that tower of Rapunzel, and where nobody comes to her to disturb her, to tell her what to do and what not to do. So, this is how Amanda keeps on thinking about that, how she could be that why she should not be nagged all the time by her parents, and she wished that somehow she could get her freedom. So, this was about Amanda. Now, let us move to our next poem, that is the here. So, now students, let us move to our poem, next poem, Animals. So, this poem has been written by Walt Whitman. In this poem, Walt Whitman has beautifully brought about the contrast between animals and human beings. So, now in this complete poem, he has talked about how various set of behaviors are being shown by animals, and how good they are, in comparison to today's human beings who have lost their humanity over the passage of time. Animals are generally simple in nature, whereas human beings are generally greedy, selfish and very complicated. So, this is how he has drawn a comparison, that how simple, how innocent, how down to earth, they do not show off, they are so there is very simplicity in their behavior. Whatever the things are there inside, they are being revealed on the surface also. There are no complications in their behavior, they do not possess some feelings like selfishness or greediness in their behavior. He is very happy with the ease going nature of animals and he wants to follow them. So, this is his desire, that somehow he could go and live with them and he wants to follow them, he wants to lead the life with them along so that he can also be away from all those complicated set of behaviors being shown by human beings. Okay. The poet is desirous to live among the animals as he thinks that they are self-contented and serene. So, his feeling about animals is they are very satisfied, completely satisfied with whatever they have. They never keep on complaining, crying, weeping like human beings, as they keep on complaining about, they have been jealous about others' success, others' possessions, and they keep on complaining about whatever they have not or they do not have in their lives. So, animals on the contrary, they are very self-contented and they are satisfied with whatever they have whatever there is there in their part. Okay. So, that is how he feels that he should go and he should live with animals. Now, they are wise and this is the reason why they never bewail of their lot and condition. So, this is another aspect of animals which the poet has described, that animals are very wise and that is why they never bewail their lot. They never keep on just making they just don't bend down, they don't feel that some of them are of higher status and they are of lower status. This kind of aspects are not there in the behavior of animals. Okay. They do not weep for their sins and they have no care to worship even God. They don't keep on worshipping, they don't cry for their sins. Whatever the wrong they have done, they just accept it, they bear the responsibility of their wrongdoings rather than crying and regretting for those things, and they do not even care to worship even God, just because they are so self-contented, they are so satisfied with whatever they have received. So, they even don't keep on praying for anything more to be given by God to them. Okay. They are always satisfied and they do not need to possess things. Now, they respect none including their ancestors and they remain indifferent in their pleasure and pain. So, they do not give another level of respect to their ancestors as the human beings are doing, so that they can get their blessings, they can get more, and now they remain indifferent in their pleasure, whatever they are, howsoever they are being, they are very truthful in that, and they just enjoy that life. Okay. And they don't whatever the pain or happiness they have received, they just keep on living that life in the same manner. For this reason, the poet wishes to learn from animals. So, this particular aspect of animals is been taken by the poet as a learnable thing from them. We should learn this behavior from the animals. They do not have any kind of falsehood. There is no fakeness. Everything is very truthful. It's everything, whatever their relationship is, if they are praying, if they are prey or if they are hunter, whatsoever is the relation, it is very truthful. They do not mock someone, they do not mask their originalities. Okay. They are free from all types of trivial anxieties, so they are still living their natural life. So that is how they are being free from all these inhuman kind of behavior, which is complex and which is having lots of negative aspects, complicating the lives. So they are free from all these aspects, and that is why they do not have such anxieties as the human beings are having, and that is why they are still living their natural life. They are living in an innocent way, and they are leading a perfect happy life, whatever the life has been given, there for them. Okay, they have accepted that life and they are living it in a natural manner, in a satisfied manner. So this is how the poet, he is been talking about that these qualities, these wonderful human nature, which was earlier being possessed by human beings, are now being possessed by animals. So with this particular his own way of justification, he justifies that why he desires to live with animals. So this was about the poem written by Walt Whitman. Now students, let us move to our next poem, that is a ballad, The Tale of Custard. Now our poem 10 here, The Tale of Custard the Dragon, has been written by Ogden Nash. So this poem is basically a style of ballad, where this is a song, a rhythmic poem which could be sung here. Okay, and it tells a story, and the story is about a small girl, that is Belinda, and this girl, she lives in her white house, small little grey house, white house, and with her pets. She has strange pets. Okay, now this is a girl, Belinda, who has some strange pets. So we have already seen. Now let us see. They have career names, very different names had been given to these pets. She calls the black kitten Ink, the little grey mouse as Blink, the yellow dog as Mustard, and the cowardly dragon Custard. So these are her 4 pets which she has, and the names are: kitten is been named Ink, the mouse has been named as Blink, the yellow dog as Mustard, and the dragon, cowardly dragon, as Custard. Now, Belinda's, the kitten, the mouse and the dog were very brave, but the dragon was a coward. So here she as well as her pets are being described with their nature. Okay, so all the 4, Belinda as well as the kitten Ink, the mouse Blink, and the dog Mustard, these all were being very brave, whereas the dragon was a coward one, Custard. Okay. Now one day what happened, a pirate came armed with a pistol into their house, except the dragon, Custard, and all the others were terrified of the pirate. Now, before up till now what we have seen is, since Custard was very a coward out of them, so they keep on they used to mock him, they used to make fun of him, they used to tease him for his cowardness. Now one day what happened, there all of a sudden they found a strange noise, and they saw a pirate who was holding pistols in his hand and a dagger also, and he was he comes inside the house, where everybody got horrified, and they were unable to face the pirate in a brave manner, except the dragon, the custard. Okay. Now, he was, we have seen that everybody was terrified of the pirate. Custard attacked the pirate and gobbled him up. Now, out in that encounter between, so Custard, he just fights back with that pirate and he takes out all his courage and he just attacks the pirate with blowing the fire from his mouth, and later on he just gobbled him, he just swallowed him inside, and finally the pirate was been no more. Okay, he died. Now, Belinda then embraced him while Mustard legged him. So, everybody was very happy that Custard, he fought in a very brave manner and everybody was admiring him, they were embracing him for his bravery that he has shown. Even after this brave incident, Custard did not give up his cowardly ways. So, still Custard was happy with the way he wanted to stay in a very refuge manner, in a very secure manner in one side in his cage. He did not want to get in the quarrel or the way these other pets used to keep on like boasting about their bravery. Okay, so he still wants to go ahead and carry on his cowardly ways of behavior. Okay, he still kept on crying for a safe cage. So, the way he used to earlier ask and cry and ask them to spare him so that he can sit down in that safe cage and he can spend his time in a peaceful, quiet manner. So, he still continues to do that. So, this is how our Custard Dragon Trail is being narrated in this poem. So, students, with this we have covered all those poems which are to be there in your syllabus. We will be taking up other aspects in further in the other revisions. So, students, best of luck, prepare well for your exams. Thank you very much.